Welcome, everybody, to the birthday edition of Lowdown on Low Code. We, in fact, have just recently turned 2 years old. We've been at this for just about 2 years, and like most 2-year-olds, Lowdown on Low Code is going through its terrible twos. This has been a pretty tumultuous time for low code here over the course of the last couple of years. If you haven't had a chance to tune into our two vibe coding sessions, which we've done with a number of the prominent vendors in this space, please go back and take a look at that. That really sets the stage for what we're here to talk about today. But if you've tuned in, it might be because of the provocative title, Low Code is Dead. So that's actually what we're going to explore today. Is it dead? And if so, what's coming up next? So let's start with this. We have one of the fellas that coined the term low code. John, would you be bummed if the term low code was dead? And honestly, are we really onto something that is really that different from what we've seen before?
Low code as a term has had a good run. Clay Richardson and I coined it in 2014. It's now 12 years later. We're working on that research for a couple of more years. So it's had a good run, but the market has moved on. And, Rob, I think there's three things that we can observe about this industry. We've been at it for a long time, all of us. Thing one is that terms rise and fall. No term lives forever. It's just the market moves on and finds other terminology, other ideas that are more motivating than the old ideas, than the existing ideas. So the market moves on. We have to move with it, I think. Secondly, the reason the market's moving on is because developers always push the new thing. Developers get paid for developing on the new thing. So of course there's a real personal motivation. And so we're seeing that obviously with generative AI and all the things around it. And then the last thing is that whenever there's a new thing, we always over rotate on it, always. And we're doing that now. We people like us are out there saying, hang on a minute. We're over rotated on this. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that a lot more to practical value of this technology than the promoters are telling us about. And we will over time come to learn what the real practical applications of the new thing are. We're in the process of doing that. It's one of our reasons for being at Analysis.Tech.
Thanks, John. Hey, Dave, some things have changed and some things have changed for the better, right? There are new development opportunities that are coming out of this. You've talked to a lot of people. You've done a lot of hands-on research yourself. What's really changing with the development process, and how do our opportunities around what we develop change with this?
Sure, Rob. I think that a couple of things have changed. The first one is, and for me particularly, trying to get hands-on with this technology, it's been really interesting because I would always regard myself as kind of the sweet spot audience for these low code and all these new generation tools. I've never been a pro coder. I can sort of hang myself a little bit around pro code where I need, but I'm not a pro coder. And so I think that the interesting thing that's happening right now is that the accessibility of these tools to a broad range of people is really interesting compared to anything in the past. We've always talked about this idea of the sort of elusive citizen developer, utilizing low-code, drag-and-drop type tooling, but it's never really got to a point where it's become pervasive broadly across many, many organizations. Now we have a situation where a couple of things can happen. Firstly, business people who have the knowledge and the domain skill can describe what it is that they want in a way that is far easier to do than ever before. Now, whether they're doing it with a vibing type tool that exists on top of a low-code platform, as we've noted in the past, or whether they do it utilizing one of these new age vibe coding tools, doesn't really matter. They have the ability of being able to describe the outcome. I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing that is different is as follows. Business people and developers can actually work together right now in ways that are sort of unprecedented. from a productivity point of view. That's a major difference. The other thing is that the ability for someone who isn't a technically skilled person to come up with a concept that runs, that feels like it does what they do, that allows them to test certain scenarios, and to be able to then turn around and say, that's actually what I want, is definitely changed completely compared to before. And so those are some of the things that we're seeing being different. I think it's time will tell as to whether this turns into this idea of what I'm going to call idea to execution, which is the sort of end-to-end thing, or whether these tools are really all about part of the idea to execution timeline, an idea to concept. And the concept then takes a different approach when it comes to turning into execution. You'll hear a little bit more about this from Francis, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the experience is definitely changing, and the breadth of audiences that have the ability of being able to use these tools is radically changed.
Thanks, Dave. Great. And let's jump to Francis with that. Hey, Francis, we've all been victims of code for a long time, and I know it's not your favorite thing. Talk to us about the importance of a model. Talk to us about how the kind of some of the tenets and some of the functionality behind low code platforms remains relevant in this new world.
Yeah, I think it's fair to actually say that everybody hates code. Even programmers that say their careers are based around code, they don't even like looking at their own code a year later, and they get bored at least a year or two into any project they're working on, and so it gets left, and then it gets spaghettified, and then it sits around forever, and it adds to this thing that we used to call total cost of ownership that somehow gets dismissed as it's just a cost of doing business. So we start with that, and then you end up realizing that we've moved on with everything underneath this. The hardware choices that we used to make, we don't make. The CPU, the operating system, what disks do we want? What size disks do we want? That's kind of all kind of morphed into, well, it doesn't matter anymore because we're in a SaaS world. And I think that that's where we've headed with the model. The model enables you to say, I've got this base from which I can build on. I don't have to worry about the nuances. Now I can put the control back into the hands of the business to say what they want to do. But you need a platform of some shape, whatever it's called, whether it's a low-code app gen platform or a low-code platform. You need that to make sure that someone's got your back, right? That you're building things governed, secured, that can scale, that reduces all the risks, but actually delivers what you want. And Dave touched on it. If we can move to this era where we could rapidly prototype. Business can say, I know what I want. Let me show you. And then they rapidly prototype that, whether that's through vibe coding or through some model platform. That gets built in a very structured way. And then the teams that access this model then to make it robust, to give it the meat and potatoes behind it that turns it into a serious enterprise application that's going to allow you to do what you want. And I think the model has always been there from the days when this used to be called 3GL, then 4GL, then low code. The concept that if you put things into a model, something's got your back. Something's watching what you do, giving you that ability to reuse things. Never, ever copy the same piece of code more than once, whether that's a code or a piece of metadata in the model. That gives you such security and really impacts your total cost of ownership over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And business finally get what they want out of the computer system.
Love it. Hey, so in vibe coding panel 1, Jessica de Oliveira had a quote that I think we all just loved, which is, well, low code may be dead, but low code is the life raft that vibe coding needs. They just don't know it yet. And I think that starts to speak to what you're talking about, Francis. Hey, Rick, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I get when I deploy to a platform, right? Which is really different. It's always been one of the benefits of low code. We deploy to a platform, and that extrapolates away a lot of the other things that we have to do in order to deploy and maintain an application. What are some of those things that we have to think about that we get with a platform?
Well, I think there's two broad areas, one of which I call operational, one of which I call productivity. Operational is a platform can take care of things which are pretty much default across the board and do them effectively and with really no cost to developers at all. And as a data guy, of course, I'm thinking about things like data consistency and concurrency control and error handling and accessing data, as well as things like
enforcing governance standards when you're going across multiple repositories. That brings us to the second level of productivity. You can build into the metadata, which comes from the platform, things which can be automatically implemented within applications. Of course, this is defaults. These are things which we've had around for a long time, but you can go a lot faster and a lot farther by being more granular and more broad reaching about it. And of course, the way places all comes together, as a database guy, I'm proud to say this is in something like a repository, which a platform is using, which gathers together not just traditional metadata from database schemas and such, but metadata around processes, which can not only implement that functionality, but give you ways to do things like pass parameters to make it both productive and flexible. This is a pretty big deal, and the linchpin that the platform provides, which really provides goodness across the board.
Thanks, Rick. Hey, Andy, the stuff that Dave described was pretty cool, and I get pretty excited about it. And I look at LinkedIn, there's a lot of people that are really excited about this stuff. But we live in a world where we tend to over-rotate on new technology topics. And AI is the latest, and maybe it feels like we're on the precipice of throwing caution to the wind as we never have before. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, to start with, I come out of this space not as very little expertise in low code, but a fair amount of expertise in packaged software. And the heart of packaged software has always been rules that are used to define the step-by-step activities that occur in a process. It could be linear process, it could be circular process, but rules are actually very efficient from a computing perspective compared to AI, which is very inefficient from a computing perspective. So the way that I view this is that low code has primarily focused on, I'll call it, the collaborative processes, the nonlinear processes, the processes that are actually very employee-centric, as opposed to the basic linear process that run there, which is where packaged software is played. So the way that I see this is that there is a role for AI, I think, but I think it's far less than what the advocates, the AI billionaires are saying, in part because AI still makes incredibly stupid mistakes, and it'll continue to make stupid mistakes because of the way it's designed. And it needs to have people who are there to say, no, that doesn't work that way. It's got to work this way. So it does mean that one of the opportunities here, which may be where low code is heading, is to create a merger between AI tools and human-based tools that can come back to address that non-rules-based processes, those collaborative processes, that do need a lot of ad hoc, a lot of make it up on the fly, a lot of let the employees who do the work design the actual tools they will use, and not let AI do it for them, but instead let them utilize, where it makes sense, certain specific AI tools to complement that. The key thing, in my view, has always been that AI should be driven by the actual users and not imposed on them. And the data I've been seeing around how many AI projects have been successful, which is very low, it's something like 20% have been successful, circles back to when the employees are actually in the driver's seat, given a combination of certain classic tools like low code, certain AI tools to empower them. That's where I think it's going to play out. But,
Andy, do you think it's remotely possible that the AI billionaires who have a very outsized voice in this market right now are more concerned with becoming AI trillionaires than they are with how you run your bank, how you run your insurance company, how you run your manufacturing lines? I mean, maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe?
I don't think they want to become trillionaires necessarily. I think they want to run the world.
And become trillionaires.
That is,
Two
you see
things
it.
can be equally true.
It's a different objective. And to be perfectly clear, most of them are total morons.
Okay.
Outside the area that they've done. End of sentence.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a great place to kind of saw off the conversation. I think John started off by saying is the term is low code dead? Well, the term certainly is under a great deal of threat, and there is unbelievable innovation that is coming from the vibe coding and vibing vendors, and there's really truly value going on there. But low code does come from a world where models and platforms are highly, highly relevant for many types of applications in many types of organizations, and that will remain true. So at Analysis.Tech, we do see that there is going to be a convergence, which is going to bring together the platform and model capabilities that you see that have always been the hallmarks of low code. And those will increasingly become evident in the vibing and the vibe coding platforms. We're already seeing that happen. But of course, the low code vendors are going to engage vibing and vibe coding, and we're going to see a convergence of those two. And it's going to come down to what's right for your organization, your appetite for risk, how much you want to embrace these new trends. And there's not going to be a right or wrong solution for any given organization. It's going to be unique to your organization. So the bottom line is, it feels like in some fashion, low code is dead. Let me just kind of go around the horn here and ask one question. Is low code dead? And what does this converged platform that we envision, what do we call it? Let's start with you, John. Just
We call
yes,
it
no, what are we going to call it?
low code is not dead. It's a set of features now, just like vibe coding. And we're going to call the new platforms AppGen platforms.
All right, Dave, what do you think?
I've always had a view that says no one selects a low-code platform because I want low code. Low code isn't an outcome of anything. And so in some ways, I agree with John. This idea of the outcome is I'm looking for something that can help me generate my application that I need better, quicker, and easier than ever before. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if we call that AppGen platforms, I'm on board completely.
Okay, Francis, what do you think?
The future of software and the way it's built is definitely different, game changing. Low code is as good. I don't really care what it's called. I mean, I know the opposite is really high code that drives everybody mad. So we have to get away from that thinking. So let's call it what it needs to be called, but set it out clearly what it is.
Okay, you'll go with the flow. Rick, what do you think?
I don't think low code is dead. I think it's a component and an interface to an overall platform. I'm not crazy about app gen platform because, of course, where's data in that term? And it's a deeper and
It's
richer and more
inherited.
it's a deeper and richer and more comprehensive platform than just app gen. So I don't know, maybe development platform, maybe IT environment platform. It's got to be more than just development because there is more to IT and systems than just development code.
Andy, you got a thought on this, or you just don't
It's
care?
do-it-yourself software with human and AI intelligence
Oh,
combined.
DIY. I like it.
Oh,
DIY.
all right. All
I,
right. We have a new direction.
I've been
Fresh
trying
thinking.
to figure out a way of making Diwali work with that.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody for joining. Thanks to everybody. So this is kind of the stuff we talk about behind the scenes at Analysis.Tech. It's a little peek into how our research runs on a regular basis. Thanks everybody for taking the time to join us today. At some point in the near future, Lowdown on Low Code may show up under a slightly different name. Thanks all.